For the most part, the majority of TV demises tend to come a little out of left field, with many a show preferring to catch its audience and its characters off guard with a shocking death. That element of surprise is certainly one way to approach such moments, but there's a lot to be said for taking a slightly different approach. So with that in mind, I am Gareth, you're watching What Culture, and here are the 10 greatest I'm dead and I know it moments in TV history. Number 10. Stringer Bell, The Wire. Like several other properties featured elsewhere on this list, The Wire is a series that could offer up a handful of truly worthy I'm dead and I know it moments. But if picking just one of those, then it's the execution of Idris Elba's Stringer Bell that gets the nod here. Unlike many of his cohorts, Stringer wasn't solely all about the crime and carnage. Instead, by the time of his demise, he was attempting to look for a better life, with a career in real estate seemingly in the crosshairs of Bell. Sadly for Stringer Bell, his past misdemeanors would be his downfall, with his former partner Avon Barksdale giving Bell's location to Omar and brother Mozone. And as soon as that pairing found Stringer, he realized that his time was numbered. Despite initially pleading his case and offering up money to Omar and Mozone, Stringer knew there was no way out of this particular pickle, delivering the phenomenal "well, get on with it, motherfucker" line, a line of dialogue that was interrupted by gunshots, as Stringer Bell was killed off in cold, clinical fashion. Number 9. Bob Newbie, Stranger Things. For Sean Astin's Bob Newbie, he was a character who, quite frankly, didn't bring all that much to the table for most of Stranger Things' second season. The new lover of Joyce Byers, Bob was a relatively dull character who audiences were hoping would do something of note. But boy did Newbie step up in a major way by the time all was said and done with his time in Hawkins, Indiana. That moment to shine found Bob effectively embracing his own death, as he volunteered to head to the basement of the Hawkins lab to reset the breakers following a power cut. As soon as Bob put himself forward to venture down to the basement, the character must have been aware that his chances of making it back alive were minimal, and that would indeed prove to be the case, with Newbie mauled by a group of demodogs. Fortunately for the rest of the characters, Bob Newbie was successful in getting power back to the building, even if he wasn't quite as successful in making it back to Joyce, Mike, Hopper, and Owens. We'll never forget you, Bob. Number 8. Jimmy Dharmad, Boardwalk Empire. Killing off one of your two main characters after just 2 seasons was always going to be a risky move for Boardwalk Empire, and it still splits opinion to this day whether offing Michael Pitt's Jimmy Dharmad at that point in time ended up being detrimental to the series. Boardwalk Empire would go on to run for 5 seasons by the time it wrapped things up, yet there's no getting away from the fact that it was at least a little tough to get used to the show without Pitt's character being front and center, or, at least alive. By that point, the father-son relationship between Steve Buscemi's Nookie Thompson and Jimmy had become extremely strained, and for Jimmy, he found himself in a downward spiral, deep in debt, a failed liquor business, drug and alcohol issues, and he'd even kill his own father. When Nookie promises to help fix some of these problems by having Bill Forsyth's Horvitz captured, the person who killed Jimmy's wife, it's all a ruse designed to get Jimmy out in the open, where he will be killed. The thing is, though, Jimmy is well aware of this even before he sets off to meet Nook. To Jimmy Dharmad, his real self died in World War II. As such, he sees his execution at the hands of Nookie as ending the misery that has become his day-to-day existence. Number 7. Spike, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Many would say that Spike was the character who had the greatest arc and growth throughout Buffy the Vampire Slayer's beloved 7-season run. From all-out villain to anti-hero to genuine self-sacrificing good guy, James Marsters' Vampire stands as one of the all-time great genre TV characters. And in typical Spike fashion, he brilliantly welcomed his ultimate demise during Buffy's final ever episode. Not only did Spike know that his time was up, he embraced embraced it and delighted in the fact that he could feel his soul. With an I love you from Buffy, Spike was more than happy to go down with the ship, as he wiped out the Turrican, provided an escape route for everybody else, then stuck around to make sure that the Hellmouth fully closed up, which in turn killed him in the process. Of course, Spike would end up returning to be a part of Angel, yet that didn't take anything away from what a cool moment his Buffy the Vampire Slayer death was for fans of the IP, with Spike's act of selflessness viewed by some as being the hardest hitting of all of Buffy's many, many deaths. So on that subject, I want to know right now, what TV death hit you the hardest? Let me know in the comments. Number 6, Hank Schrader, Breaking Bad. Many avid TV viewers classify Breaking Bad as the absolute greatest show in the history of modern television. But even if you don't fully agree with that viewpoint, it's hard to dispute that the series, and likely Better Call Saul too, is at least in that conversation. In amongst a show brimming with quality, Ozymandias, Breaking Bad's third off last offering, is viewed as absolute perfection. And one key reasoning for this, of course, is how the episode gets off to a shocking bang, as Dean Norris, Hank Schrader, is killed within the first 10 minutes. With the cat out of the bag that Hank and his partner Steve Gomez are DEA agents, Jack Welker toys with Schrader while Walter White, Hank's brother-in-law, tries to bargain with Jack. But while Jack humors Walt and listens to his pleas, Hank takes a slightly different approach. Schrader finds himself being questioned by Jack on whether he should let him live, while Walter begs his family member to play along with Welker. Instead, Hank has already long realized that he is a dead man. As he puts it to White, seconds before being murdered, "You want me to beg? You're the smartest guy I ever met, and you're too stupid to see. He made up his mind 10 minutes ago." And you know what? The greatest I'm dead and I know it moments in TV history do not stop there. But if you're enjoying this list right here, then tap that subscribe button down below for even more of these What Culture videos. Number 5, Brian Griffin, Family Guy. Greatest may not be the best way to describe the death of Family Guy's Brian Griffin, yet that demise was a hugely powerful, poignant, and emotional one when it occurred in Season 12's Life of Brian. Whereas some other characters featured on this list realized death was upon them and went out with a spirited bang or a big middle finger to their rivals, the death of the Griffin's family dog was a different beast altogether. As it dawns on Brian that the Grim Reaper is a-calling, the Pooch opts to use this moment to tell his nearest and dearest how much he appreciates them, wishes them farewell, and thanks them for giving him the best life possible. In case you missed it, Brian was shockingly mowed down by a car as he and Stewie prepared to play street hockey. Rather than played for chuckles, the damage done to Brian is handled in a more nuanced, serious way, with him taken to the vets before it's revealed that his injuries are fatal. Seeing Family Guy kill off one of its core characters was shocking enough, but it was even more jarring to see that it was a character as popular as Brian. In fact, so jarring was it, fan backlash led to the K9 being brought back 2 episodes later thanks to some time travel shenanigans. Number 4, Carl Grimes, The Walking Dead. Across the Walking Dead franchise, Carl Grimes is one of the rare characters who is well aware that their inevitable death is well and truly on the horizon. For Chandler Riggs' character, his death gave The Walking Dead an emotional shot in the arm at a time when the series and its characters needed it most. Having been bitten on his stomach by a walker, Carl knows that he has zero way of avoiding death. Unlike certain other walker bites, there's no way to simply amputate a limb here. Prior to this reveal, we see Carl stepping up to protect the residents of Alexandria from Negan and his saviors, with the young man making the bold decision to interrupt a Negan who is about to bomb this one-time safe haven. After providing a distraction that allows the Alexandrians to be led to safety, it's only at the end of this whole ordeal, the closing moments of the How It's Gotta Be episode, that Carl reveals to Rick and Michonne that he had previously been bitten when helping Sadiq. That moment is beautifully delivered, and it also explains why Carl had what felt like a new sense of purpose for the prior 50 minutes of that episode. From there, the following outing, Honor, is a gut punch of an episode, as we see Carl say his emotional goodbyes while death slowly circles in. Number 3, Olenna Tyrell, Game of Thrones. Tell Cersei I want her to know it was me. Not only did Olenna Tyrell know that she was about to die, she went out like a complete and utter badass when meeting her maker in Game of Thrones' The Queen's Justice episode. As part of Cersei's unrelenting power play during Thrones' 7th season, the House of Tyrell is brought to its knees, and it's down to Jaime Lannister to personally off the Queen of Thorns, Olenna Tyrell. With him not all that enthusiastic about killing the old, frail Olenna, Jaime compromises by offering Tyrell a quick, pain-free death by poison. After getting reassurances that the poison is both effective and as painless as possible, Dame Diana Rigg's character promptly drinks the sinister potion, then reveals that it was she who ordered the death of Joffrey, Jaime's born out of incest son. Not just does Olenna reveal this to the Kingslayer, she gleefully goes into the specifics of Joffrey's death, having already called him a C-word minutes earlier, while Jaime Lannister has to helplessly watch on. And in one final kicker, Tyrell smugly makes it known how she wants Cersei to be made well aware who was pulling the strings that led to Joffrey's death. Number 2, Adriana Lacerva, The Sopranos. The death of Drea Di Matteo's Adriana Lacerva was not only one of The Sopranos' most brutal moments, it was also the perfect example of just how cruel and clinical this world was. When reflecting on the series' 6 seasons, Adriana was one of the most fascinating, multifaceted characters of The Sopranos, so when Di Matteo's Lacerva was murdered in the penultimate episode of the show's 5th season, it left jaws agape, as audiences struggled to believe that The Sopranos would kill off someone who had been such a mainstay of the series. By the time of that fateful long-term parking episode, Adriana had finally told her fiancé, Christopher, that she had been working as a mole for the FBI. After Chris had near enough killed her himself, calmer heads prevailed, and the pair were set to move away and enter witness protection. Adriana would later get a phone call from a frantic Tony Soprano, who explained that Chris had been hospitalized after trying to take his own life. But when ever-lovable Silvio turns up to give Adriana a lift to her beau's bedside, it soon becomes painfully clear what is really happening. While the audience may have twigged already, it is absolutely heartbreaking to slowly see Adriana realize that she's about to be whacked, as Sil veers into some woodland and ultimately shoots her dead, signaling how Christopher had valued his mob family over his bride-to-be. Number 1, Opie Winston, Sons of Anarchy. For many, they are still not over the death of Ryan Hurst's Opie Winston in Sons of Anarchy, nearly 13 years after the show's Laying Pipe episode first aired. Jax's bestest bud and one of the most loyal members of the Sam Crow, Opie went out like a true hero. When Damon Pope had Jax over the proverbial barrel, Opie stepped up to make himself the sacrificial lamb that Pope was seeking. The deal on the table is that Pope will let 2 sons have their freedom so long as one of the other Sam Crow members gives up their life. And it's decided by Jax that he will offer up himself as the sacrifice here. Yet Opie forcibly makes himself the one to die, as he lands a headbutt on the sergeant, a move that automatically makes him the one to be on the receiving end of a 4-on-1 beating that was designed to end in death. To Opie, this was the ultimate honor, the perfect encapsulation of what his brothers meant to him, and his opportunity to do what he deemed the right thing for the greater good of the Sam Crow. As soon as the perfect moment arose, Opie took his opportunity to greet death head-on.